So, welcome back to another episode of the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom. We're on to episode 31 this week, and we're recording this on the Friday, the 9th of January, which is just over a week before the release of this particular episode. And the episode is called The Managerial Merry-Go-Round. It's an update on the episode 9, which we spent a bit of time talking about, but also it's an apology if things have changed dramatically between us recording it on this Friday and it going out on Monday the 19th, because in football 10 days is a hell of a long time. But there's a lot going on. It's fair to say the last couple of weeks in all sorts of areas, but particularly in Premier League land, has been a bit of a managerial shit show, and there's still pressure on a lot of managers. So without further ado, let's talk to my mate Dom about the current managerial merry-go-round, but let's have a little nod first to what we talked about in episode 9. But before we do that, that is a shirt and a half, mate.
It is. I'm doing round 2 of the shirts now, and this is my favourite shirt of all time, mate. It's the remake of Middlesbrough's kit from 78, 79, Adidas, really minimal. It's just pure Borough. Simple red with the white band, the classic black MFC and the lion, and uniquely the band goes all the way around the back. And it is just a very, very beautiful thing. And it is my favourite football shirt.
So I'm wearing one that's not. I like this. This is our current away shirt. I'm wearing this in deference to the fact that I'm off to Fulham tomorrow. I think we'll probably wear red because they'll wear white, but we might wear this as our away top. And I kind of liked it when it came out. I don't know. I'm a bit less in love with it at the moment. It feels a bit like pajama-y or a sort of deck chairish a bit, really. But you know, it's our current away kit, and I'll wear that because our third kit's white. We won't wear that against Fulham. So I'm wearing it in deference to the fact that we're wearing it tomorrow on the train down to London for an away trip. I'll be wearing a bit more because it's -2 apparently.
Yeah.
But let's not get into the weather, because the weather's just, you know what, it's January, it's cold, get over it. Let's move on. So let's talk about managerial merry-go-round. And for those who are not familiar with our back catalogue of work, and why wouldn't you be? Because it's an excellent body and library of football commentary. Yeah. Have a look. We looked at the managerial merry-go-round very early in the season, episode 9, and at the time we were looking at managers who were in position who we thought were under pressure, and looking at the people we talked about at that time. We talked about Ruben Selles when he was at Sheffield United. He didn't last, and he was gone within days of us recording the podcast. We looked at our favourite, Russell Martin, who Dom and I have got zero time for, who, by the way, weirdly sent me a LinkedIn connection a couple of weeks ago. I absolutely didn't accept it.
Did you really?
And I didn't accept it because I didn't want him hearing our body of work, in which Russell Martin never really comes out very well. So Russell Martin and I are not connected on LinkedIn, despite the fact that I got a connection request from him. I don't know why. We talked about Russell Martin at Rangers. He went. We talked about Ange Postecoglou at Forest at the time. He went. And we talked about Ruben Amorim, and it took a bit longer, but it's happened. And Ruben Amorim has gone, and that's going to be an element of what we talk about in terms of succession planning and Man United and the gift that keeps on giving. But I think it's fair to say that I, not necessarily you, but I want to start with an apology from episode 9 to Keith Andrews at Brentford. Because I had Keith Andrews down as, in the sack race, as they refer to it in tabloid land, probably my favourite not to last. And that is absolutely wrong of me. I'll put my hand up and say, missed that by a mile. I thought Keith Andrews was a cheap, easy internal appointment. But you know what else you could call that? In hindsight, Keith Andrews is succession planning of the highest order. He is doing a phenomenal job at Brentford. As we speak, I think they sit 5th in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And they're playing some great football, and he's enjoying life. He's a joy to watch as a manager. And they're not even playing what you might have thought because of him being a set piece and a throwing coach. It's not all long ball and throw-ins either. That Thiago up front is a sensation, isn't
He's a
he?
revelation, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, in fairness to us both, I don't. I mean, neither of us slagged off Keith Andrews, and neither of us
No,
said he's a rubbish manager. I was saying along the lines of it felt like an odd choice, and like they were almost kind of putting one hand behind his back because they just sold Wissa and Bueno
yeah,
and Norgard, and that's hard to replace. And he hadn't been a manager before, so it felt like a very odd appointment because he's new into it, and they just sold three of their best players.
mm,
But I remember the two of us were like, we were rooting for him and wishing him well, and didn't hope he gets sacked, or we thought, well, that's a really bad choice. He's rubbish, because we couldn't say that because we had nothing to base it on because he's not been a manager before. And I remember
mm.
we were both rooting for him, but we were both along the lines of it might not go well, but he's never going to turn it down. And if he does a good job to a degree, it's going to give him a chance somewhere else. Well, I think we've definitely been half wrong at least, because what we didn't factor in as well, which is what Brent, and there's more to this discussion when we start talking about Amorim as well, but it really is about club structure and what goes
Yeah,
on behind the scenes and what's right for your club, and getting the right person in who fits your ethos as a club. I mean, Brentford are just the gift that keeps on giving in a very, very good way. I
yeah.
mean, every each year when they lose, key players, you think, oh, this. And I honestly thought in the summer this might be the one. Whistler and Breno, that's again two really key players.
And
No guard at the back.
they'd lost Tony the season before, and
Lost
all the
Torres,
goals.
yeah,
Yeah,
and losing a manager who was, they were very stable under Thomas Frank. And you think, oh, this really could be the time when they wobble. Far from it. I mean, my God, they play some superb football. I mean, really good footballers, by the way, as well.
mm,
Some really good players on the ball. But Thiago, what a revelation he's been. I think he only cost. I think it was 1 million more than Tiano Barry cost that Everton bought. And when you look at
mm.
his numbers, I mean, I was watching him. They beat us handsomely at Hill Dickinson on Sunday. He was brilliant, Thiago. He was electric, and he's some player, and he's one of those players you would never have known about before you sign, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, you've struck gold, and everyone will want him in the next season. They'll be trying to get him, won't they?
Well, he's his stat I saw the other day saying he's now the highest scoring Brazilian in a single season in the Premier League. And, there's been a few Brazilians who played in the Premier League over the years, and
Mm.
he's already got that. And we're in January, and he thinking, and this
Astonishing.
guy costs next to nothing. So when you look at Brentford, and we talk about managerial merry-go-round, the internal appointment of Keith Andrews from the outside is like, okay, that's
It looks
brave,
odd,
or
doesn't it?
that's odd,
Yeah,
or whatever. But there's a few Brentford fans after episode 9 got in touch with us and said, "You're missing the point. The guy's been in the business. He's been in Brentford in the back room for 18
background.
months.
Yeah,
He's been learning the Brentford sort of culture and the Brentford way, and we're quite happy as Brentford fans with that appointment, and it proves that succession planning, proper succession planning, is the basis, and that comes down to the players as well. Because Thiago was a
yeah,
succession plan for your Wissers and your Tonys, etc. That's great scouting, by the way. But internal scouting and looking at your succession planning, it doesn't always mean it's the cheap option. It might mean it's just the best cultural option. So let's talk about cultural options, and let's talk about Ruben Amorim. Man United, what a shit show, right? So Ruben Amorim, I mean, first of all, he engineered his own sacking, didn't he? That press conference the other day was hilarious. Like, sat there in front of the world's media saying that, yeah, I expected to be in charge of everything. I'm not just a coach. I wanted to be the manager of everything. I'm not being the manager of everything. So when my contract ends in 18 months, I won't be here. And then expecting his bosses to clearly not take some action on that. Or he just wanted to be out, didn't he? And he fell out with Jason Wilcox apparently behind the scenes before the press conference. So he went in that press conference really angry, from what I understand. and he just let it all out, heart on his sleeve. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't 18 months, it was near 18 minutes after the press conference. Literally, he was like, yeah, Ruben Amorim has been let go by Man United with all his backroom staff at a cost of 20 million quid or whatever. The numbers might be 10 million, 8 million, 15 million, but a lot of money. And Man United have got no plan whatsoever.
Yeah. It's just a shit show. It really is a shit show,
It's
and
funny though.
it's funny, but he makes a good. I mean, yeah, he sealed his own fate, and he hasn't helped himself at some points when he's come out in his interviews and things he said, whether he's been a bit too open or a bit too honest, or maybe sometimes a bit too whingy at times. But I I feel frustrated. I mean, again, Man United is the gift that keeps on giving in a bad way, but also a good way if you're a neutral, because you just sometimes have to sit from the outside and laugh. But then it is also quite sad that this institution that is Man United, that was something great, is what it is now. And I think the key things for me is I wished him well. I think he's a good manager. I never thought he was a Man United manager, but I thought he was a good enough manager that he might be able to change a lot of the entrenched things at Man United in terms of how they want managers to play, their systems, etc. I mean, he plays three at the back. They never play three at the back. It's not the Man United way. They never ever
Yeah,
have done. But that's not to say that if you give a manager time to implement how he wants to work and he has the right players around him, that wouldn't work at Man United. I think he made some good points. I think modern football now is obsessed about the head coach, where the head coach doesn't really have any input.
yeah,
Whereas in the past, it used to be managers, and managers had a heavy input in terms of recruitment, what they wanted, style of play, what the trajectory was, what the plan was, what the I hate using that word project was. But everyone at Man United, it's a complete disconnect. I don't see anyone in the hierarchy of Man United who actually understands what Man United is as a
mm,
in terms of the pedigree of the club, the history of the club, what being a Man United employee or a Man United manager is. And I don't think a head coach works at Man United, or if it does, it has to be they all have to be on the same hymn sheet. So Amarim raises a good point that I think he would have done better if he was a manager and
yeah.
actually had say so in terms of recruitment, who he wanted, who he didn't want. I also think, mate, as well, he's getting a lot of stick, but I think he deserves some credit in terms of things that he changed there. I think if you pay attention and you look behind the scenes and you look at what's gone on there, I think he's changed quite a lot in terms of the culture. He got rid of a lot of the players who were, whinging, moaning, didn't want
I
to
was
play,
I was about
toxic
to,
like Ganacho and all likes. He shipped those out. He's
yeah,
had players there that he wants to work with, who want to be part of the club. He's tried to appease possibly the I don't think he got on with Rashford. Didn't agree with how Rashford approached the Man United debacle. I don't agree with how Rashford went about it either. Whether
no,
you like him or nothing personal about Rashford. He probably is a good footballer, but you know, he's doing it at Barcelona. There's no reason why he couldn't do it at Man United. He never really turned up for that club personally. I think he threw in the towel a long time ago, and I think Amarin knew it.
yeah.
But I think it can take time to change a culture. And when you think of how entrenched it's become at Man United and how bad it is in terms of everything behind the scenes, he had a hell of a lot to cope with and deal with. And I think he was slowly trying to turn that around. And it
Mm,
does take time, but I think in terms of how they were working, I think some of his philosophies were starting to change. He was adapting. The players seemed fitter. They wanted to work. They seemed to buy into what he was trying to do.
mm.
He seemed to have got rid of a lot of the players that didn't want to be there. He seemed to have trimmed it down in terms of what he wanted to work with. And this season, they were starting to show some shoots of actually starting to progress to a certain level. And then that happens.
I think they're
Go
about
on, mate.
9 places higher up in the league position right now than where they finished last season. So they're pretty close to the top four conversation. If you dismiss Man United, you can dismiss Liverpool because they're 2 points behind
Yeah.
Liverpool or something like that, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
so on the pitch, and I do a lot of work in my day job around things like leadership and culture. Culture takes time, and you've hit the nail on the head there. He was moving an oil tanker of a business, and it is a business, very slowly in the right direction to turn it around.
It
And
was.
for me, he didn't have necessarily the the gravitas, the impetus to take on your Jim Ratcliffes and your Jason Wilcox. By the way, Jason Wilcox, did he play for Man City, didn't he? What's a Man City guy doing as head of football relations or whatever he is? Did he play for Man City, Jason
I don't
Wilcox, did he?
remember. I don't recall him playing for Man City, but he
Was
was
he?
he was employed at Man City. But then
Yeah,
their chief executive Barada, he was chief executive at City, and then jumped ship
yeah.
to go to United. So
It's a bit of a strange one, that.
I
Now, here's the thing. Jim Radcliffe, right, very successful, might be a pound behind him. What does he know about football? I don't
nothing.
know that he knows anything about football because he's a businessman who he says he has these little interviews with Gary Neville every now and again, and he talked about, Amarin's going to be here for the next 2, 3, 4 years, and we're going to build a sort of dynasty around him. And then the first time he Amarim challenges the hierarchy to get rid of him. That's weak leadership from Ratcliffe, from Wilcox, from chief execs,
It is
etc.
weak
Because
leadership.
they do not want to be challenged. Well, I'm not being funny. Man United fans do not give a shit what's happening in the boardroom. They care about what's happening on the pitch, and that's about taking your manager and giving him the authority to do the job. And if that means that he's upsetting players, like you said there, your Rashfords, your Garnachos, and even your, Kobe Mainoo and stuff. Okay, Man United fans, Kobe Mainoo should be playing. Well, if he's not training well and he doesn't feel like he's ready to play in the team, that's the head coach and the manager's choice. But it was always likely to end in tears, because here's why. In the time that Arteta's been in charge at Arsenal, including interims, Man United have had 10 managers. 10 managers in the time that Arteta has been given to build at Arsenal. And I mean given time to build at Arsenal, because they've won nothing of significance, and yet the Arsenal fans are behind him, the board are behind him, the head of football recruitment is behind him. I'm not sure that Gyökeres was his choice, but we'll give that a separate issue. But I think if you're Arteta, you have to now deliver, and that's fine, but it's 6 years. So,
Feels like a
give
lifetime in modern football. That
it
and they have.
does.
You've got to give Arsenal credit there. They have backed him and they have given him time. And in terms of what he's actually delivered, yes, you can see the trajectory Arsenal are on, and they're getting stronger and improving season after season. But a lot of clubs would, and Man United probably would be one of them, would class that as failure, and they'd probably sack him. And that's where it's wrong. I think fundamentally, what worries me is, and the people in charge in the hierarchy at Man United, like Barada, Wilcox, etc. I don't know anything about them. They might be very good at their jobs, but I don't really see them as being Man United people. Man United used to be a club that was entrenched with people who were Man United through and through.
Mhm.
Everyone who worked at the club, in whatever capacity, they were fans. They were from the area. They just lived and breathed United. They knew what United stood for. They knew the history of Man United. Now, everyone probably does know the history of Man United, but do the people who are working there now really understand Man United? Do they really understand the fans? I'll go back to a point you made as well, where the fans don't care about what's going on in the boardroom. Well, yeah, they care about what's going on the pitch more. But I actually do think, worryingly, and they shouldn't have to worry, but they do. I think they do worry about what's going on at the club in terms of how it's being run, because they can see that Man United is being run really, really badly, and the
Yeah.
concern is, because it is being run really, really badly, I don't see how this changes. They'll bring someone new in, but that person still won't be a Man United manager. They still won't get the club. They still won't get. They'll be promised time, but then won't get that time. And when they don't deliver, they'll be sacked and they'll be wondering again.
He's a
And
thing,
it'll
right?
just keep
You
going
talk
on and
about.
on like that. And I don't know the answer. I don't know. I don't know who they bring in.
I'll tell you what the answer isn't. The answer isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It just isn't. The Ollie's at the wheel. Ollie gets
Well,
United.
it's not. No.
Ollie would jump through a brick wall for us. Ollie's. If you're going to give it to what's his name, who's got the interim job for 2 games? What's his name? Ex-player,
Darren Fletcher.
Darren Fletcher. If you're going to give it to
Darren
Darren Fletcher
Fletcher.
for 2 games, right? Why not give him it till the end of the season? If he, why did they then bring in Ollie or Ollie and Michael Carrick or Michael Carrick on his own as an interim? I know they don't want to appoint a manager mid-season, which is fine, but then the fans will be going like, "All it guarantees an interim manager they'll have a little bit of a spike. They always do. Ollie will, if he comes in, he'll do okay, and then they'll go, oh, why do we just keep Ollie? Ollie's a great idea. Let's have Ollie back. Ollie at the wheel. And it wouldn't surprise me then if they keep Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer and then sack him in December because he's had a shit start to 2020, next season. There's no plan. There's
Yeah,
no succession plan at
it
all.
does. There is no plan. There is no plan. And I've heard loads of people say, "Oh, they need to get Roy Keane because Roy Keane gets the club and everything else." And I
Wow.
know some people say, "But he hasn't qualified in terms of managerial experience." For me, it's not really about that. It's the fact that what bothers me is the fact that they wouldn't entertain having someone like him in because it would make them too uncomfortable in terms of what he'd reveal. Because he'd be
Yeah.
so honest, he'd just say, "Well, all of this needs to change." He
Yeah.
wouldn't tolerate all the stuff that goes on and is going on at that club. It's almost like football clubs are run now in some kind of sterile, safe environment where it's not about accountability, and they're trying to recreate something they can't recreate because they don't really understand that they've lost the culture and they've
Yeah.
lost they've lost what football's about, and also they don't understand what Man United's about, which is, and Alex Ferguson was all about the risk. I rewatched something recently an interview he did with Gary Neville, and I've heard Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt talk about this on their podcast that they do as well. You know, Man United Ferguson was all about risk.
Mm.
So he'd always try and win a game of football. And he always said, if you've got, added time or into the last minutes of the game, he said, why on earth would you waste time tippy-tapping it around in midfield? He said, you want to try and win a game of football. However
Yeah.
you win it, it doesn't matter. But he said, you've got to go for it. And you've got to be, you've absolutely got to try and win the game. And I mean, Scholes was saying about one game where they were losing to Chelsea, and and they were, I think they pulled it round, but then they sat off. And he said at the end of the game, he said they got absolutely bollocked. He said, "What were you sitting off for?" He said, "With Man United, you never sit off. You've always got to
Yeah.
try and win the game."
Yeah.
He said that mentality's gone. There's no risk anymore. That they're not out there every week trying to win the game. So it's in too many clubs now trying to manage games, aren't they? They're trying to. Very briefly the night against Everton against Wolves, you could see their equaliser coming a mile off because we were sitting off. We were giving them acres of space. It was almost like, let's keep sitting off, let's keep sitting off, let's keep sitting off. We'll hold this. When a team's going to learn that they're far more effective and you're far better and stronger defensively when you're attacking.
Yeah.
And people want to see attacking football. Man United used to be the epitome of that. You never ever knew you'd won a game of football until the final whistle went against Man United, and that's what's gone. And I
Okay.
don't think you can't recreate that in a heartbeat. Like you said, culture, it takes time. If you've
My
lost
problem.
it, you've got to recreate it, haven't you? So you've got to
My
give
problem.
someone time to recreate it.
You do. My problem with Man United is that they're living in the Fergie past, aren't they? It's like, Fergie. There'll never be another
Yeah,
Fergie again. And let's get past that. 10 managers in the same time what's his face has been at Arsenal. Arteta's been at Arsenal. Is just criminal, really, for a club of a size of Man United. So let's get on the managerial merry-go-round. And oh, by the way, I should say Mane Wolves. By the way, some player he scored another great
he
goal
is
against
some
you the other
player.
night. And he was played at Rochdale last season. That's a phenomenal sort of rise. Anyway, they talk about Glasner. They talk about Iriola. They're talking about waiting for a manager in the summer. So would that be Tuchel? Would that be Southgate's available now, but would it be Southgate or Ancelotti from Brazil on a 1-year contract? They're throwing names around like it's confetti, right? Now, I'm going to take Glasner and Iriola. Iriola at Bournemouth and Glasner obviously at Palace. Glasner won't be at Palace next season. He's already I think he's talking about a new contract, but probably to protect Palace.
Yeah,
He's highly regarded. But I've followed German football for a long time. Oliver Glasner's had as many hits as he had misses in Germany. He's doing a
yeah.
great job for Palace because he's the right manager in the right place at the right time. Oliver Glasner is not a Man United manager. He
He's
hasn't
not.
got the gravitas for it, okay? Iriola at Bournemouth, right? He was flavour of the month, but you look at him now, they've won one game in 10. Is he still flavour of the month? Now, Man United are so stupid in their recruitment. They'd have recruited him 10 games ago. Now they look at him and go, oh, he's lost 10 in a row. So their recruitment policy is probably based on knee-jerk immediacy of results. So Iriola's probably further down the pecking order because he's lost, he's not won 10 games.
But what's wrong with that is at Bournemouth, he's given time to have a run of bad games because they have faith that he'll turn it around, and he's done really well for them. Because at Man United, because everyone loves to talk about them and they're always in the news, and Gary Neville and the likes are endlessly talking about them all the time to the point.
Hang on. Has Gary Neville got a podcast? I think he's got a podcast, hasn't he, Gary Neville, or maybe 5 podcasts.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But because they're such a big club, they're talked about all the time. So the pressure levels are different. But for me, it's like, if you think that manager's the right manager, when he comes into your club, you've got to give him the same respect and time and allow him to work. Whereas they won't. They'll suddenly expect something different of him. Like, they'll elevate him and say, well, you should be doing this. It's like, well, I shouldn't. I should be doing what you employed me for, which is what I was doing there. And if you've done your diligence, you'll know how I work. And every club has wobbles. But the problem is, these days, clubs don't do their diligence, and clubs like Man United don't do diligence. They just react. It's reactionary, and I find it staggering that, like you said at the start, there's no plan. So if you're going to sack a manager, surely you sack a manager because you've gone through everything and realised that there's something wrong, and you need to change and start again. A little bit like what Middlesbrough did in the summer when they went through and did a full belt and braces review of everything behind the scenes, and decided to change Michael Carrick as manager, but it was done at the end of the season as a review. It wasn't done mid-season, reactionary thing. And Man United's too big a club to just keep messing around with. But I think as fans, if I was a fan of their club, I'd be worried, thinking, well, you're almost at the point where who do you recruit? Do you not think, mate, with his it sums up the actual very phrase, managerial merry-go-round. Are we not getting to the point now where clubs, they're so free in sacking managers every 12, 18 months?
Yeah.
Who's coming through anymore that can do the job? There's no a lot of these managers aren't bad managers. They're just not given the time or the resources or the right structure to work in. And for all we know, Amorim might have been really good, but he might have been very restricted in terms of letting him do what he did at Sporting, for example. And I know they're two different clubs. But he did
seem wedded to his system of 3-4-3, and
very stubborn, very stubborn.
Let's not talk about Man United too much longer. I wanted to just throw some names at you and say these are the names that have been bandied around. Okay, Oliver Glasner, Iriola, Southgate, Tuchel, Ancelotti, if they were lucky, and Maresca, because he's obviously left Chelsea, although he looks destined for Man City. Out of those, I think Tuchel would be great, but would last less than a season because he can rank anybody, and the board wouldn't like Tuchel because he'd tell it how it is. The fans don't want Southgate because he's boring, apparently. Ancelotti would be a dream, but would he come again? And if Brazil win the World Cup or do badly, either way, suddenly his stock changes. Ancelotti would be class; he'd be perfect for them. But is he going to come to Man United at this age and this stage of his career? Iriola, not ready, I don't think. He should stay where he is because he's doing a great job. Glasner, stay bloody Crystal Palace. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Maresca, don't know.
No.
But here's the thing: Man United don't know either.
But isn't that a worry though? I think it sums up everything about.
No, it's hilarious.
Now. You can't. You go back 20 years ago, you'd be able to kind of say who should succeed a manager because there was longevity in the game. There isn't now, and it's almost like we go through managers like they're a packet of sweets. It's just ridiculous. You haven't got, and sometimes because a manager's done poorly in one place or a couple of places, they're almost written off as like, well, they're not a manager. They're a bad manager.
Yeah.
What we don't know is a lot of the stuff they might have done that we don't see that actually makes them a really good coach, and they just haven't had the right circumstances or club to go in and do what they want to do. And I mean, it's a bit like at Chelsea, and I know Chelsea will go around and say, well, this has been our philosophy for the last 20 years, and it is. It's still wrong. Yes, you'll say you're successful. Yeah, you are, and you win trophies. But it's almost like Chelsea's so hell bent on winning trophies, they've actually forgotten what it's like to build a culture or
Yeah.
build something that fans perhaps want to get behind. Or sadly, the Chelsea fans think that that is what they want to get behind. But Rosenior, great coach.
Hang on? No, no. Can I
Yeah,
come to Chelsea in a minute?
yeah.
Rossini's next on my list,
Okay,
but I want to finish with Man United, right? Okay. Here's the thing I think might happen. Might
okay.
happen. Only go to Solskjaer with or without Carrick, or Carrick with or without someone as an interim between now and the end of the season, and they have a little bit of a spike, and they manage to sneak top four or top five if they qualify for the Champions League, right? Because let's face it, I think your City and your Arsenal and your Villa are probably your top three, and then you've got quite a few clubs fighting for fourth and fifth. So let's say Man United go on a bit of a run and manage to sneak fourth or fifth and get Champions League football. You can almost guarantee that their fans will be calling out for, well, he's already got look what they've done. We're in the Champions League, and then they'll take the easy option. That I think we might be sat here at the start of next season talking about whoever's the interim manager, Solskjaer or Carrick or whoever, being appointed as Man United manager if they have a bit of a manager bounce, which would be hilarious and completely wrong. But I want to finish on my next. I'm sick of talking about them. Let's talk about Chelsea, okay? Maresca again engineered his own downfall. Multi-club ownership, we've done a podcast on that previously. Are you telling me that Rosenior would be anywhere near the Chelsea job if he wasn't part of the multi-club ownership with Salzburg? He was sacked
Strasbourg.
absolutely, Strasbourg, sorry, absolutely wrong to have sacked him from Hull, by the way. He did a great job at Hull.
Yeah,
Their owner, massively stupid decision, although they're doing really well this year, whatever. Rosenior, ex sort of interim and deputy at Derby, well regarded. Hull, well regarded, but sacked brutally. He's now been in France. Would he be top of Chelsea's list? Would he be anywhere near Chelsea's list if he
no,
wasn't part of the multi-club ownership?
no, God, no, no. We've spoken about on this pod. I like him. I think he speaks well. He's articulate. He's a good young up and coming coach. He's doing good things. But has he earned the Chelsea job? Absolutely not. Would he be getting it if they weren't able to just conveniently move him out of Strasbourg and drop him in? Absolutely not. Will he be sacked in the next 18 months? Absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Will it affect his chances of another job somewhere else? No. That's the beauty of it for him. He'll get them. It's the usual straplines, isn't it? He'll walk into Chelsea. He's signed a 7-year contract.
He's won the lottery, hasn't he? He's won the lottery.
7-year contract. What is that about, really? What's the point? Just, money-wise, it makes no difference. Just give him a 3-year contract or 2-year contract on the same money. He'll get a massive pay rise, huge payoff when he leaves. He won't reinvent the wheel. It's not really Chelsea. The issue with Chelsea, it's getting to the point where they have such manager turnaround that I think it's actually to the detriment of the younger players that are there. Because they've turned their. It used to work for me personally. It used to work better years ago because they had a more balance of more experienced players, and players they brought in weren't youngsters. They've got an incredibly young team now, and yes, they can play some good football. Yes, they've got some good players, but I just think it's to the detriment of where the team's progressing. I don't think it's improved Cole Palmer at all. In fact, I think it's I know he's got injuries and everything, but I think he was doing better and progressing better under Pochettino than he was under Maresca and where he is at now. And the more coaches you bring in, it's different philosophies, different things to learn. You've got to start from scratch. It's just this constant churn. I think it's unhealthy, mate. So
yeah. He's the thing with Rosenior though. He's on a hiding to nothing because at least 50% of the Chelsea fan base don't want him. There's been loads of talk sport phone-ins from knuckle-dragging fuckwits who are Chelsea fans saying, Rosenior, what's he done? I don't know who they expect to employ because they've employed every manager in the Northern Hemisphere as far as I can see over the last 10 years. Are they going back round again? I don't know, but has he earned it?
These are a lot of these Chelsea fans are deluded though, mate. They're entitled people. These are the same people who go on social media saying, "Oh, signing Jai in January and get Morgan Rogers." And it's like, yeah, because that's going to happen in January, isn't it? And they're going
Yeah,
to leave those clubs to jump to you because you're the next best thing to go to. Well, you're not, are you? Because most of the time these players know they're not going to play.
yeah,
And I mean, going to Chelsea like selling your soul to the devil, isn't it? Really,
it is.
and they just for me, they just a lot of Chelsea fans might say, "Oh, we've got an identity. This is it. We win. We're successful." Well, yes, you win. Yes, you're successful, but you do it. It's all about winning the next trophy. You don't care how you win it. You don't really
Yeah,
care about player welfare, player churn, player turnover, manager turnover. It's all about,
financial
well,
financial irregularities.
yeah, you don't care about any of that when really, I might sound a bit corny in saying it, but it's really your club culturally. Where's it at?
Yeah,
Where's it at for your fan base? It's just it's not giving you anything. And Rossini is always going to take that job every day of the week. I'd respect him more if he turned around and said, "Actually, I'm not ready for it. I'm really happy where I am." But like he's got a choice in it. I
yeah,
think the other thing about, and this touches a point. This also links into the multi-club thing, and you know, murky. We described it as murky, and it's not particularly. I don't see what value it holds.
yeah.
But equally, how belittling is that to Strasbourg that you're basically treated like that? That they can just say, "Well, you're part of our group. We don't really give a shit about you. We're only concerned with Chelsea, so we're going to take him out of there and put him in that
Yeah.
one because that's what we want to do."
Their
Which is,
fans are in uproar, aren't they?
yeah. So you're totally disrespecting them as a club, and it shows you how little you actually think of them as a club. Because if you actually respected them and wanted to treat each club separately, you'd
Yeah.
leave that manager in charge there. I mean, they'll come out with all the bollocks of, well, he was there because we were agreeing with him to be the next Chelsea, but bollocks. No, it's not.
Rubbish.
Absolute rubbish. And
Yeah.
that doesn't play into your philosophy because you'll sack him in the next 12 to 18 months anyway. So you don't give a shit about him. All you want is someone to replace the manager that you've just binned off and that you hope he'll be vaguely successful or do something randomly. And then you'll still get sick of that and move on again.
Yeah.
So, and then
Conscious,
Rossini will go back to starting again somewhere else.
but
So,
he'll start at a higher level then because he's been at Chelsea though. What he'll
well,
start at the middle, potentially
possibly.
mid-table. Yeah, he can't go wrong with senior, can he? But
He can't. It's almost perfect timing for him. He's
yeah,
like he's kind of bulletproof through this, I think, unless something goes abjectly wrong.
yeah.
Which yeah, I agree.
Um,
So but
so
it leaves a
let's
nasty taste, doesn't it? Because it's all about the Strasbourg thing of like, well, we don't really. That just shows how little
yeah,
they think of a club in their ownership. So yeah,
it does. Well, let's look at managers under pressure, right? Okay. Actually, before we do that,
the Celtic one.
it would be remiss. It'd be remiss of us not to talk about if Man United's a shit show. How do we describe Celtic? Right? I mean, wow, big club. Those who support Celtic always claim that if they're in the Premier League, they'd be in the top four every season. I think they'd probably play
No,
the
they wouldn't.
Championship for now. No,
They
they wouldn't.
really
We know
wouldn't.
that. Let's annoy our Scottish fans on that basis. But Rangers have got it right with Danny Role by the looks of it. They seem to have got that. They've steadied the ship after Russell Martin. Took a little while to get it going, but Rangers on the other side of Glasgow, won their 3-1 at Celtic Park on Sunday. They're now second in the league. They are a force to be reckoned with because Hearts looking over the shoulder and hopefully not panicking. We all want Hearts to win the league.
Yeah.
But Celtic, what are you thinking? First of all, what were you thinking employing Wilfred Nancy from the MLS? And conscious of Dom's forthright views of the MLS, I don't want to spend time having too much conversation about the MLS.
I won't do that.
All I'd say, it's like I've pulled a hand grenade pin out. I mentioned the MLS to Dom for those who listen regularly. I'll leave that in a minute. We'll come back to that. But Columbus Crew to Celtic, was it ever going to be successful?
It just doesn't
No.
work, does it? It's never going to work.
We'll have Martin O'Neill beforehand, and then we'll have Martin O'Neill afterwards. I like Martin O'Neill. I like Martin O'Neill, by the way. Martin O'Neill would be a great manager for Man United. But anyway, that's a separate issue. But I think Celtic under Martin O'Neill might
right there.
Celtic under Martin O'Neill might just win the league again because if he steadies the ship and they've got on a run and it's so close at the top and they play each other 3 or 4 times and whatever, Martin O'Neill might win the Scottish Premiership with Celtic again. But why didn't they just keep him? Why did they feel like they had to, get rid and start? It's embarrassing, isn't it?
But yeah, totally embarrassing. So they make the right call in bringing him in.
Yeah.
But then the owners think, well, you know, we know better and we'll do it our way. And they're American owners.
Oh
And,
well.
and and you can't tell me they won't have some delusion about the fact that, football in America is on the rise. It's not on the rise. It's failing miserably. And
Stop it!
no,
Stop
I'm not going
it!
to go there. I'm not, but it is you. But it's absolute madness to think you can bring in a coach from the MLS
Yeah.
into Celtic Football Club. His record at Columbus Crew wasn't great. Again, everyone just think about the close structure that is the MLS. It's a nice, safe, comfy league. The managers don't have the same pressure on them. They haven't got any of the fans baying at them every week about what it is to be the manager of that club and understanding that club and demanding success and to win every week, and the style of play and how you want to play and everything else. None of that goes on in the MLS, and they're not part of a culture and a structure of winning and success. It's just this safe, bland, banal
Yeah.
football of you could fail abjectly and you're back there doing the same thing again the following year. So you
Mm.
see, there's no jeopardy. So some of these people, they might be articulate people, they might actually be good coaches, but does that mean that they've got the experience to actually go from Columbus Crew to Celtic to be a manager? Absolutely
God
no.
no.
And he made the ridiculous statement saying, I know Scottish football. Well, you don't. You don't
No.
know Scottish football. You've never worked in Scottish football. So how do you know Scottish football? Watching it and then actually being involved in it is not knowing Scottish football. I know Scottish football more than he does,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even be able to come close to being able to imagine what it must be like to be a Rangers or Celtic manager. I mean, the pressure must be, and the expectation is beyond anything. And their fans don't give you any time to settle. They're on
No.
you immediately. But, in simplistic levels, what mystifies me is how can you make an intelligent decision in bringing someone like Martin O'Neill in, but then saying you're not good enough to last the end of the season? And then, at least you could say, well, they've owned their mistake and they've brought him back in. But it's like, just don't make the mistake in the first place.
Just embarrassing.
It's a joke. It's like, well, why do you think you need to suddenly bring this guy in? And I feel sorry for Nancy because it's like bringing a lamb to the slaughter.
Well, Wilfred Nancy is he's like a local corner shop owner who's been given the job of managing Amazon. He's literally gone from, you run a
Yeah,
corner shop, so you know about retail. So I'll tell you what, we'll make you the chief executive of Amazon. That'll work. He's literally
yeah,
gone to that level of increased expectation.
yeah.
Anyway, so shit show like Man
So he'll
United,
do well somewhere else. So he'll still be a good coach. He'll probably go on and do well somewhere else. But he was never on that level to be given that
no,
job. So and again, so it tells you everything about what's going on behind the scenes. It's what goes on behind the scenes at these clubs. And again, Celtic fans are more concerned at the moment of how their club's being run
yeah,
because they know that, like you were saying before about fans being concerned about what's going on in the boardroom. Well, they are more and more now because they know that what goes on there is having a direct impact on how that club's performing, the players that are coming in,
absolutely.
managers that are being recruited. And they know that if that's not going well, that it's not going to bode well anywhere else. And if you think about it, the demise of Celtic over the last few years under this new ownership, it's been quite worrying, to be honest.
Yeah. Been good because, for Scottish football, for the
For
outsider, it's
neutrals,
great to
yeah,
neutral
but
to
not for
watch and whatever.
Celtic
But
fans, obviously, yeah,
yeah,
and likewise,
so
likewise at Man United as well. So yeah,
So Celtic and Man United, lack of succession planning, lack of boardroom cohesion, lack of connection between boardroom and playing staff and manager and coach, etc. And it's brought that its own downfall, which is good to see. We've talked about Man United, we talked about Celtic. As we speak, I just want to talk about a couple of vacancies that are available in the Championship. West Brom are seeking a new manager. I think Michael Carrick would be perfect for West Brom. I think he'd be absolutely the right appointment. But he's had his head turned by Man United potentially. Carrick, I think, is one of the two or three favourites for the West Brom job. They've got a decent squad, West Brom. He'll get them stabilised, and he might get them on a bit of a run. They're not a bad playing crew, really, if you like. When you talk about their squad, they're just in a bad run. So I think West Brom, for me, Michael Carrick. Oxford have got a vacancy that John Terry turned down on the golf course. We talked about that last week, so we're not going to give that any more airtime. But Oxford are linked with Bloomfield, Matt Bloomfield. What has he done to deserve even
No,
consideration for that? He took Luton down and he did nothing with Luton in the League One environment that Oxford might find themselves in next season because they're in peril at the bottom of the Championship. So what are these people who make these appointments look at and go, I tell you what, this guy who's been shit at Luton, who were exactly the same as a small club, small budget, overperforming in the Championship in a relegation battle. Oh, he took them down and then he started the season being shit in League One where we might be next season. Oh, he's the guy for us.
he's the
What do
guy
these
for
people
us.
see? What do these people see?
I don't know, mate. And it's almost like these things, these people are touted as the next big thing. And again, you don't know if there's probably talent there, but whether they were ready or never going to be ready for these kind of jobs. But equally, on the same footing, why does Gary Rowett keep getting sacked? All I ever see is him doing. He actually does good work at places,
Yeah.
and he never seems to be given the time. I mean, at Oxford, you're always going to be up against it, aren't you? I don't think he was doing
Smallest
particularly
smallest
terrible.
budget in the division, I think
Smallest
Oxford have
budget. I
got.
don't
Yeah.
think he was doing a particularly terrible. I mean, Oxford fans, please tell us if there's things you don't like about him or was the stuff he was doing wrong. But I don't recall him being there for that long, and I don't recall him doing that bad a job. And surely you have to question as a club if you're sacking someone, is the person you're bringing in considerably of a better caliber? And if they're
Uh-huh.
not, does it not come back to what we were saying earlier about just have some faith, give the guy time,
Yeah.
and just sometimes allow your club to go through blips? Lots of clubs go through blips. You can go through blips where you lose heavily, lots of games in a row, and then you can come out
Yeah.
the other side and do okay. It does happen. It happens quite a lot. Sean Dyche at Everton went through a period of not winning anything in like 10, 11, 12 games. At some
Yeah.
clubs, that'd be like, he's gone, he's fired. But then you come out of it and you do something okay. And I'm not saying that means that they're perfect or brilliant or they're going to end up being the next best thing for you. But is it not about having some time and some faith and not just reinventing the wheel with the same thing over and over again?
I would say with Oxford, you are more likely to stay in the Championship with Gary Rowett in charge than almost anybody else you can attract right now to replace Gary Rowett because of
Yeah.
his experience. And okay, I think the issue, or one of the issues, was the football wasn't great, but also they're on a bit of a losing run. Like you say, it's a blip. It might be a blip, but they've just pulled the trigger on a manager who's got lots of Championship experience to replace him potentially, and it might not happen, with Bloomfield, who's been he's like the Gary Rowett you'd buy from Wish or Timo. He's not Gary Rowett. He's not as experienced as Gary Rowett, whatever. So let's just touch on that right now. I want to talk about managers under pressure because I think what we like to do is forecast the future on this particular podcast. We did it really well on episode 9. I'm not wishing this on any of them, by the way, but I think these managers at the moment, apparently, some of them are under pressure, and one of them's a real surprise, okay? So, first of all, I think at Spurs, I think you've got a problem for Thomas Frank. I think because he appears to have lost the fan base and they are plummeting down the Premier League. They're no better than they were last season. But he's a new appointee and he's had one window, hasn't he? So for
Yeah.
me, if you're going to get rid of Thomas Frank, you are mental because what have you done? What you've done is you've done your due diligence and thrown out the window in 6 months. So Thomas Frank needs to be given time. They're not going to get relegated accept where you finish this season, give
Yeah.
him a couple of windows and build. That's what I would say. But Thomas Frank's under pressure because the fan base don't like him anymore. Nuno at West Ham, they would appoint their fourth manager of the season if they got rid of Nuno. And West Ham, but they want to play the West Ham way. I hate that West Ham way. It's absolute bollocks. Surely the West Ham way is staying in the Premier League. You look like, as a result of losing to Forest at home, ironically Nuno's last club, you look like, as a result of losing to Forest at home on Monday night, that you are cutting adrift. You're 7 points away from safety at West Ham, and you don't look like you know where the next win's going to come from. Nuno won't be there very long because West Ham fans have got no patience whatsoever, and their owners are, well, what's the word I'd use? Stupid. Literally, that's what I would think of West Ham. It's an absolute shit show of a club, the way it's run, the fact that we're paying for their stadium. They've played in an athletic stadium. I hate everything about the whole West Ham thing. He's under pressure. And I think Chris, what's his name at Birmingham in the Championship, saved his job
Chris Davies,
on.
yeah.
Chris Davies saved his job on Monday, or at the weekend, Sunday, I think it was, by beating Coventry at home. But the expectations at Birmingham are, for me, way out of kilter with reality.
Yeah.
And, Chris Davies, a lot of fans are saying, I've seen polls on social media, should we keep it? It's 50-50. The guy has done miracles for you. He's consolidated you in the Championship. You're not going down. You're probably not going to get in the playoffs, okay, because your away form's terrible. Chris Davies under pressure. Spurs, West Ham, they're all just. It's January and they're panicking. But
it's the same merry-go-round, mate. It's getting to a point where it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's almost getting to a point where, and I know I've mentioned this before, and I say it lightheartedly, but there would be some merit in it. It's like, it would be funny if they brought a rule where it said, once you've appointed your manager and that's it for the season.
Yeah.
They're never going to do it, but actually, it would just, I mean, even the season's too short, but yeah,
stability.
It is like, we've done our diligence, but then it's panic. If you've got due proper diligence and you know what you're doing, you keep the faith and you have patience. Thomas Frank isn't going to suddenly provide everything you want overnight. If that's what you wanted, you might as well have stuck with Ange and go on another good cup run or something like that.
But it was following a losing culture under Ange in the Premier League. They finished like 17th last season. You can't change that overnight. Yeah, but you've done your due diligence to say Thomas Frank's our guy.
Yeah.
And 5 months into it, you're saying, well, maybe he isn't. That's absolutely wrong, isn't it?
Isn't the rumours there that a lot of the players don't like him? I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, media can be very good at creating a narrative that isn't there, like in terms of. Maybe they've shown things in the past of players walking off and not handshaking him, etc. Is there an issue? Is there not? For all we know, it might be fine behind the scenes. But again, Spurs fans don't help in the pressure that they create and put on everything, because just have some faith. Let him do his job. Let the team he works with do his job. And Spurs, stop expecting everything to be so instantaneous. You were lucky to win the Europa League, and you were. Let's face it, you were. You were nowhere near it in the Champions League. You're nowhere near it in the league. You don't do well in cups. So you don't have some entitlement to, be there. And if you were so big a club, you'd have the best managers in the world queuing up to want to go to you, and the players. You haven't.
Yeah.
So just be realistic and give the guy time. You've got a really good manager there. Whether part of the problem there might be that the players don't respect him enough, possibly, or people think he doesn't deserve that level of a job. I absolutely think he does deserve that level of a job, and I just think he needs to be given the time. It's absolutely crazy. The Chris Davies one at Birmingham, well, that to me smacks of, again, American owners thinking Birmingham are suddenly too bigger than they are. They want to build this massive 60,000 seat stadium, which some Birmingham fans think they're going to fill. They aren't.
No chance.
No chance. There's no way on earth Birmingham City are ever going to fill a 62,000 seat stadium. I'm not really sure where that comes from. And just going to put it out there, I don't mind people doing different things with their stadiums, and I don't like them all looking the same as each other, but that is one ugly looking stadium, by the way, that they're proposing to build. But stop running before you can walk. You're not suddenly this big, massive entity of a club and some kind of superpower. So you can see their owners are thinking, well, we should be much higher than we are. Actually, you were dog shit. Then you've steadied the ship. You've bought some really good players. You were brilliant in League One. He's turned you around in League One. He's doing a really good job of keeping you nicely comfortable in the Championship, which can be a big adjustment for any club.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a bit inconsistent, but you've had some really good wins. You've played some really good football. You're nicely placed. You're not off it. Why is he under pressure? Again, be careful what you wish for. Who are they suddenly going to bring in? Who's going to suddenly elevate them further to where they want to be? They seem to kind of think that we're now this club that we can attract some huge person to come in. You're not.
No,
you're just not.
No.
So who are you going to bring in? you're not going to bring in anyone who's going to suddenly think Birmingham's the job to go to. That's not going to happen. So, and what was the other one, mate? You were saying
West Ham.
again, Nuno's the kind of person he needs more. Him going in when he went in there is not right for him.
No.
He's another one who needs time. And at Forest, he was given a bit of time, and he was also given the players he wanted. He hasn't got any of that at West Ham, and they were already free falling. And again, I hate to say it, but it comes down to the same thing again: ownership. I
Yeah.
feel sorry for West Ham fans because their club is on its knees in terms of its ownership. But then some of the fans were very quick to want David Moyes out, and be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, there's Everton fans now on social media slagging him off and wanting him out of the club and everything else. And they're just not looking at the bigger picture. I don't agree at all. Yes, he can be a bit negative. Yes, I think he should change things now and again. Yes, he can be slow in his game management. He's shown that on Wednesday night. I think he should have changed it up and seen that we needed to change. He can be a bit stubborn, but he's also done some really, really good things. And he does tend to run a really steady ship. He's involved in recruitment. He's a proper old school manager,
Yeah.
which you want these days. West Ham fans couldn't wait to get rid of him, and yet he did miracles for them. And now they're wishing he was still there.
Yeah.
And I know that's not all of them, and I know a lot of them didn't want him to go. But the Nuno thing smacks of.
But they wanted to play the West Ham way. They wanted to play the West Ham way, mate. What is the West Ham way?
I don't think
It's
anyone knows
bullshit.
What West Ham way. He doesn't
The
play
West Ham way is
way.
1966 and 1970. That's it. And historically, the West Ham way was attractive attacking football. West Ham would take 1-0 off someone's arse for the next 5 games to get 15 points on the board. Sod your West Ham way. It's about winning games of football, and that's what you're wishing for.
But if they sack him, he's the kind of person you stick with, because even if they went down, he'd probably bring you back up because he's a good manager. If you gave him time and he wasn't under the same scrutiny and pressure, I mean, yes, he'd be under pressure if they went down and they'd be expecting him to bring them back up. But he's the kind of person you'd keep at the helm because I think he'd do that, and you'd be able to give him some perhaps players that he wants in the summer, maybe in January. I think. Do you know what? Some managers come in early in the season and they strike gold really quickly and elevate, and everyone goes, "Oh yeah, it was a brilliant appointment." Other times they come in, they just need the time. Why is he suddenly an abject and poor manager between September and now? He's not. A lot of that's what goes on behind the scenes, and you can't sometimes recreate it, can you?
But also their squad is very ordinary, and I'll tell you now. Unfortunately, a fact of life, 3 clubs get relegated from the Premier League every season. And, it's not always the fact that Wolves are shit, although they've turned it around a little bit and they're slightly less shit, I hate to admit now, but they're still going down. Burnley don't score enough goals, so they're always going to be under pressure. And West Ham are the 3rd one in that bracket at the moment. If you look at squads and performance, etc., unfortunately, your squad is a relegation-threatened squad because it's really quite pedestrian. It's really quite dull. Take Jarrod Bowen out of West Ham. What have you got? Nothing, right? So
I mean, that's Somerville's a player.
Realistic.
He's a really good player, but again, you can't.
He scored 1 goal and 1 assist all season. Dom, he's not that good.
What I mean is, he's a handful. He is a good player.
He's not. He's not good enough.
You need more players around you, though.
He's not good enough. Somerville's not good enough to get West Ham.
No, he's not. I do think this season's going to be tough for them. Unfortunately, 3 clubs do go down. I don't wish for any of them, really, because you'd never want to be in that position as a club yourself.
I kind of wish. I don't wish for Wolves, but I do wish for their manager. I don't wish for Wolves, but anyway, right, moving on. 2 things I want to finish with. Conscious of time, really conscious. I don't want to make this too long. A manager who keeps getting mentioned in good dispatches, keep an eye on this just from our viewpoint, is Michael Scubala at Lincoln. He's doing a great job in League One. So if you see a championship vacancy, Michael Scubala probably will be, and might very well be either appointed or certainly connected with that. And Scubala is playing great football, although I know a couple of Lincoln fans who say it's pragmatic but effective. So he's a name to watch, Michael Scubala. But the last thing I want to finish with is, and I saw this week, and it is only social media and indeed TalkSport and crap broadcasting like that, is that apparently Arnie Slot's under pressure at Liverpool. Really? How entitled. How unbelievably naive is that of anyone in the media or their fan base to say that Arne Slot is under pressure as Liverpool manager? He won the title in his first season. I don't care how or why or, circumstance or whatever. He won the Premier League in his first season. And yeah, okay, they're not the force they were last season. There's lots of reasons probably for that. But they're still fourth in the Premier League. Arne Slot under pressure. Bonkers. What's your thoughts?
Oh yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy. You get all the things coming out about how he was still using Klopp's squad and had all those players and everything else. Well, yeah, he still managed to win it and win it convincingly. And again, I come back to who are you going to replace him with? He seems like a good guy who's got his head screwed on, who knows what he's doing. You've given him, a sweet shop of players. I'm sure they'll turn around and come good next season. They might not, but they're not exactly having a bad. I mean, they'll turn around and say that they're having a terrible season. All their fans are like
Oh,
this. Oh, we're fourth, and we're not going to win the thing. Throwing the dummy out the pram like they always do. It's ridiculous. It almost seems to have got to the point now where you take out all of a coach's qualities. If they're not winning something or looking like they are going to win something, it's failure. Well, it's not. Klopp wasn't great every season.
no,
No one suddenly said Klopp out, did they? So
no.
I would say he's doing just fine. Second season wobbled. It's never easy to replicate what he did the season before. He's integrating new players. Next season there'll be a different kettle of fish again, and
With the
judging at the end
exception,
of next season,
yeah, with the exception of a few dynasties like your Man Uniteds and your Cities, it's rare to do back-to-back wins in the Premier League, isn't
of
it?
course it
Rare to
is.
win the
Yeah,
Premier League back-to-back. Historically, it's not been something that gets done very often. It's that entitlement of their fans that really gets me, and the fact that lazy journalism. I call Talksport journalists in inverted commas. Your Cundys and your bloody O'Haras and your Talksport bloody phoning idiots. Oh yeah, get rid of him, get rid of him. Okay, managing merry-go-round. Who do you get? They're no better off than Man United at that point. Just let it build under him. Liverpool are a better run club than Man United right now. And if you want to give Man United a chink in your armour to look for an opportunity to catch you up, sack Slot and follow Man United's business model. That's all I'll say, because that's an absolute recipe for disaster. Would you agree with that as a final point, Dom?
I do agree. Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think managerial merry-go-round sums it up perfectly. It is a merry-go-round, and at some point it needs to stop, and there needs to be a bit of reality check in football.
Yeah.
We're getting to a point where we're almost exhausting the list of who can go where. We really
Yeah.
are, aren't we? And the fact that now more and more than ever we are at the point where we never really know who someone can employ. I genuinely don't know who these clubs turn to next, who the next
Yeah.
thing is, who the next manager is, who the next best thing is. So yeah,
And whoever it is, if it's a next best thing appointment, the last 18 months will be gone again, more than so. I
yeah,
think we are recording this in January. I think if we look at this as a review at the end of the season, there'll be 7, 8, 9, 10 different managers in position from what there are now in the
yeah.
top two divisions, and indeed if you include Scotland in there, possibly than we've got now, and that's ridiculous. It's just wrong. It's just
Oh,
the
it's crazy.
stability, culture, everything's wrong. So great to discuss it. Keep an eye out for Skubala. Watch out what happens at Oxford. Look at West Brom and who they appoint. Chris Davies, I'd say your job should be as safe as houses, but your fan base and your stupid American owners probably think otherwise. Rossini, I wish you well, but we don't think you're going to be there that long. Iriola, stay where you are. Glasner, sign a contract with Crystal Palace. Man United, get your act together. And Liverpool fans, stop being entitled. Spurs, back him. West Ham, I think you're done. That's my view. Managerial merry-go-round.
I think
There's a
that's pretty
summary.
well summed up. Yeah, perfectly
Okay.
summed up.
On
Yeah,
that basis, that's it, folks, for today's episode. I'll just do the outro that we always do. That's been the Managerial Merry-Go-Round episode 31. And because Dom and I always do a current kind of activity around what the subject matter is, episode 32, we haven't decided what the topic's going to be because we're recording this on the 9th of Jan. this goes out on the 19th, so we're recording nearer the time for the 26th and the first week in Feb. So we don't know what those topics are going to be. I think probably the transfer window might loom large because we're right in the middle of, which is the worst transfer window ever, January, isn't it? It's bullshit, but we'll probably chat about that. But other than that, Dom, been a pleasure as ever. Thanks for being brilliant as ever, and reining it in when I use the dreaded three letters MLS, because I know that's like a red rag to a bull with you, mate. So well done for not going off on another rant about the MLS. Sort of did, but not too bad. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share. We're on all your favourite podcast platforms. We're on YouTube. We've got a LinkedIn group under the full name of the podcast, the Half and Half Scar Football Podcast with Nick and Dom. Loads of ways to engage with us. Please engage with us. Comment, share, like, challenge us. You might think we're talking shit. That's fine. Your view, absolutely our fine, view. Yeah. We don't let's have a debate. I mean, we're not, but you might think we are. If you think we are, we'll discuss it with you. And as Brian Clough once said, we'll talk about it for 20 minutes, and then at the end of 20 minutes, I'll tell you I was right in the first place. But that. Thanks for your support, folks. Dom, great to see you again, mate. And I'll see you in person next weekend.
We will. Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. We might even do one podcast together in your home studio, mate. That might be nice.
Home studio is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, we might give that a go. All right, mate. See you later. Cheers.
See you next time. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Cheers. Bye.